I had so much fun working on the tavern interior that I wanted to do something else like that. This time I'm going to do the interior of like a wizard's lair. Here's the floor, and I'll go back now and show you how I made the floor for the room. I found it easier to work on this in quarters. So after I've drawn all those lines on, then I just take my knife and do my shallow cuts. And basically I'm just going to go back and trace all those lines with my knife. And now I'll just use my heat gun to open those up like I did for my boards or my bricks or anything else. Like so. And then I'm going to take my mystical rock of texturing and lay in some stone texture. First, I usually this is a very super bumpy, pointy rock, so I usually just first go in and roll it around, and then I'll find an extra. I got a nice sharp pointy part there. I'll just kind of go in and add some extra breaks and things. Shake my camera. And now that I have those all cut in texture, I'm going to glue them all together, and this will become the floor of my wizard's chamber. All right, I have all those glued back together again. One of the benefits also of doing this in pieces and then reassembling it is you don't have as much of that problem with bowing, having done all these cuts on one side. Paintiferous foamificus. Just like that. And now I'm going to go through and paint these. I'm doing a stone, but I want there to be some color in this. I'll use a little gray, some tan, and some golden brown. Okay, there it is. As you can see, I just sort of blended the grays and the tans. Then I hit it with a black wash. Then I came in with the suede dry brush. Then I hit it with a brown wash, and then I gave it a little bit of a dry brush with the vanilla white. And next, I'm going to get the walls constructed for this. Let's get some walls put on this thing. I've already made these two pieces. This is basically the wall frame. I will attach stones to the face of those to create our walls. And for those stone blocks, I'm going to go with about a 1/2 inch by 1 inch. First of all, I'm going to set my fence at about a 1/4 inch for my depth on these blocks. I'll take my texturing rock here and just lay in a little preemptive texture on here. Next, I'll cut these sheets down into 1/2 inch strips. And then I will cut these to 1 inch lengths. And there they are. I'll make a bunch of those. All right, I have a whole bunch of those all finished up. Now I will turn once again to the old popcorn bucket of destiny. It is full of dwarven screws and elven drill bits and some fence staples from Hobbiton. And I just throw the bricks in the can. And now I'm going to give them a really good shaking for a while. All right, there those all are. I dumped them out. Here's a brick. It's nice, has the soft edges and the bits of broken pieces. And here's one that wasn't in the shaker, and you can see how clean and crisp those edges are. This is not a very realistic looking brick. This is much better. And I could have hand sanded all of those, but that would take me the rest of time. All right, it's time to start gluing these on. Okay, here they are all finished up, and you can see here that they join up very nicely. Of course, I have to get it all painted. I'll just start off with a base coat. I just need to go in and paint them now. I'll start off with a tan with a little bit of gray mixed in with it, and then I'll do a dry brush of the suede, and then I'll do the black wash. And there they are, all finished painting the walls. Now I'm not going to attach them just yet, because it'll be easier to work on now. It's really very satisfying making these bricks. They always turn out so cool looking. Making progress on our wizard's chamber here. back to our wizard's chamber build. Now, I intentionally made this circle pattern in the floor because I thought there should be a feature there. And an idea I have, this little geode ring was on clearance at Michael's. I'm thinking I'll build a plinth, stone plinth, and put this in it. I think I'll also fill this with a little bit of green oozy resin just to make it look like some sort of noxious concoction. I have removed that stone from that ring piece. I've just quickly carved this little, it'll be like a stone plinth. I put a dip in there so that this will fit nicely inside there. But I want to put a little bit of, just a little bit of resin in this just to create a little pool of some kind. So I've got my trusty epoxy resin here. I'm going to mix up just a very small amount, a very, very little tiny bit. And I'll add just the tiniest little drop of this fluorescent green. And I'll just use this toothpick to kind of push it around a little bit, make sure it gets into all the recesses. This will, of course, have to sit overnight and cure. And here is the finished piece. I also made this little, like, crescent moon shaped step piece here. For my paint scheme, I just went with black and then I dry brushed with a metallic tin. And I wanted to give it kind of almost a hematite sheen to it. And there is that little piece of geode with the green epoxy in there. And then, you know, whoever your wizard can stand here and conjure and concoct and whatever. But that's the centerpiece for the room right there. And I think it looks pretty cool, actually. It's a nice feature right there in the center of our wizard's chamber. I need to paint a little wizard. We now return to our wizard's chamber. I want to put in kind of a grand bookcase section in here, so we'll start working on that today. These bookcases and things like that are great for using up your scraps, so I just have some of this and other pieces that I'll cut up into my parts, and I'll show you what I have. I have all the pieces cut, ready to go for the bookcase. I'll get them textured and assembled and come back and show you the finished bookcase just like this. We'll have it probably right about there in the room. Of course, I need to populate it with books and whatnot, so I will do that and then show you what I have. All right, my books are all done, and I do have a video showing how I make these. Go check that out. And I'm still going to do some more to this. I added a couple of little embellishments to that, and I also made this ladder that's going to hang on here just like so. And I won't attach the ladder so it can actually be moved around or taken away completely, but I just thought the idea of having a ladder to get up those upper shelves would be kind of fun. So anyway, there's that. The bookshelves are done. Every wizard's chamber needs a hidden passage, and what better place to put one than behind the bookcase? I need to attach a couple of these little hinges to the back of this, and they have a bit of a profile on them, so I'm going to use my pen style heat tool here and just create some recesses in the edge here that those hinges will fit down into. All right, hinges attached. And another kind of scary bit is I actually need to go and cut a hole in my wall here. So and I will turn once again to my pen style heat tool here and just make a hole. That's a hole. I'm just gonna paint that black. I'll end up backing these with like black cardstock, so it won't be a hole all the way through. It will be covered, but this just gives you the idea that there's a passage there. Okay, my little passageway is cut. Now I just need to glue the other side of the hinges to the wall. I am going to leave the smallest amount of space between the base of this bookcase and the bottom of the wall, just so it doesn't scrape across the floor when you open and close it. Okay, my hinges are attached, and it functions like so. You can see it works rather well. I am going to also attach a couple of my those little tiny magnets right here just to hold this securely against the wall so it doesn't just rock open automatically. Once again to the pen heat tool just so I can make a little recess for that magnet. So those two little magnets there on the inside, it's enough to hold that too. It's not super strong, won't pull off, but it'll keep it from opening by itself. And here is the big reveal. Secret tunnel, secret tunnel, through the mountains. Secret, 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 secret tunnel. Yeah! Every wizard's chamber needs a hidden passage, and what better place to put one than behind the bookcase? I need to attach a couple of these little hinges to the back of this, and they have a bit of a profile on them, so I'm going to use my pen style heat tool here and just create some recesses in the edge here that those hinges will fit down into. All right, hinges attached. And another kind of scary bit is I actually need to go and cut a hole in my wall here. And I will turn once again to my pen style heat tool here and just make a hole. That's a hole. I'm just gonna paint that black. I'll end up backing these with like black cardstock, so it won't be a hole all the way through. It will be covered, but this just gives you the idea that there's a passage there. Okay, my little passageway is cut. Now I just need to glue the other side of the hinges to the wall. I am going to leave the smallest amount of space between the base of this bookcase and the bottom of the wall, just so it doesn't scrape across the floor when you open and close it. Okay, my hinges are attached, and it functions like so. You can see it works rather well. I am going to also attach a couple of my those little tiny magnets right here just to hold this securely against the wall so it doesn't just rock open automatically. Once again to the pen heat tool just so I can make a little recess for that magnet. So those two little magnets there on the inside, it's enough to hold that too. It's not super strong, won't pull off, but it'll keep it from opening by itself. And here is the big reveal.
Secret tunnel, through the mountains. Secret, 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 secret tunnel, yeah!
Next up in the wizard's chamber build, I want to put together a big stone slab table. For the tabletop, I have this piece here. I want this to be kind of a rough cut stone table, so I'm just going to go through and kind of cut some chunks out of it and make it rough it up a little bit. I kind of want there to be a big crack in this table too, so I'm actually going to just break this, which I'll do. I'll just glue back together now. I did this breaking and re-gluing back together several times in the bricks in my walls. Put a little stone texture in there. I'm just going to paint this like I would any other stone. And I got the base coat on. I also actually went in here and wrote some little like runic symbols along this one edge. Before I painted though, I also glued on some of these little crafting matchstick pieces on the bottom just to reinforce it and give it some strength. Okay, I have my tabletop all painted there, and I'm going to create some little like metal banding that will go here that will be sort of a very crude way to either repair the table or to keep it from breaking apart completely. For that, I'm just going to use a little cardstock, and I will just cut some strips of this off. Next, I'm just going to go in and put a couple little drops of hot glue on there to sort of be like rivets. So I made a couple of things like this. And there they are. I just used some bronze paint with a little bit of brown wash. And I need to put some legs on this table. And for that, I'm going to turn to just these cheap plastic beads that I got at Michael's. I don't want them to be white like this, obviously. I'm going to sand them first and scuff them up a little bit so that they'll hold some paint. And then I'll just paint them up. All right, there are my table legs. You see I've got them all painted up to kind of match the stone of the table. Now I just need to glue them on. And there it is, my stone table. And I will have it probably sitting right about here. I will glue it down. Another piece added to the wizard's chamber. So yesterday I made this table and it's pretty cool, but it really needs some like wizardy things on it. Let's make some. The jewelry making section at your local crafts hobby shop is a great place to find lots of these very cool beads and things for usually making jewelry, but I'm going to use them for making embellishments in my wizard's chamber. These are called bead caps. It's just that, and I think it just makes a very cool looking vessel of some kind. Who knows what's in there? I'm not really going to do anything to that. I can just glue it right down as is, and it looks like, you know, there could be herbs in there for making potions or, you know, jelly beans, because, you know, wizards like jelly beans. I'll fight anybody who says they don't. I also made this little thing. You know, it could be some sort of stone, maybe like a palantir, you know, just some cool stone with magical properties. That is basically just one of these stone beads and one of these pieces I got again at the jewelry making section. It looks like a cool stand for a crystal ball or something. And all I did was glue them together, and now I'll glue them to my table. I also took one of these are also called bead caps, and one of these little, they're calling them charms, they're like little crystals. I took the red one and I glued it on there, and it makes another very cool looking little mysterious crystal for this table, like so. I like how this is coming along. I think this table could also use a book, and I made a video on that, so I'll make one of those and put it on here as well. All right, here's my little book, and this wizard really doesn't want anybody in it, so they've attached this chain clasp and placed a never sleeping eye into the front, because who knows what secrets this book holds. I added this little pile of dried plants just to be, you know, something maybe our wizard's working with. But there's my wizard's table. On the wall here above the table, there'll be shelves with all kinds of other little trinkets and things. But we're taking a break from the wizard's chamber today because I have a build of a very different kind. One of my students bought me this Harry Potter Charms class Lego set as a farewell gift for the end of the school year, and I thought I would put it together for you. I think it's like a book, though, that you can put on your bookshelf, which is especially cool. And there it all is. Little desks and things, and Harry and Cho Chang and Professor Flitwick in the Charms class. Another thing I'd like to add to the wizard's table is a candlestick. Really simple craft, and I'll show you how I make them. Once again, returning to the jewelry making section of your local crafting store, they have these, sometimes they're called bead caps, sometimes they're called bead cones. This will be the base of our candlestick. You will need one of these little bead cap cones, hot glue, a toothpick, a paint color of your choice. I'm just going to go with white and maybe some kind of brown wash. I'm going to use the Citadel Seraphim Sepia. Take one of your toothpicks and just snip off one end. Push it through the bead cap, about as long as you want your candlestick to be. So get close to about the length of the candlestick you want to have. Snip off the other end and then continue pressing through on a hard surface so that it sits flush. So that you have something like this. And then I'm going to take my hot glue. If I just barely pull the trigger a little bit, a very small amount of hot glue will come out. And I'm going to just lay down some very thin beads of hot glue, starting at about the bases of the toothpick, a little bit overlapping onto the bead. Again, very thin, barely pulling the trigger so that the smallest little thread comes out. Pull it up the toothpick into the top. And I'm going to keep adding those all the way around. I don't know how well you can see that, but I have all of my, what will be my wax. Very fine brush, detail brush. Don't need a ton of paint on it. Get a nice tip and go through and just paint just the hot glue and the toothpick area. Being especially mindful of the area here where it's dripped over the bead, over the candle holder, so as to just paint the hot glue and not the bead itself. All right. There's my paint, and it looks okay, but wait till I put the wash on it, then it will really stand out. Some brown wash. And for my wick, I am just going to use black paint. I'm going to use the finest little tip brush I have. In fact, I cut most of the hairs off of this brush to make this tiny little brush. It only has a couple of hairs on it. And I can make very small lines, and I'm just going to paint on a little wick. And that's it. That's how I make candlesticks. I just need to glue this down to my wizard's table. And there we have our candle. Looks pretty good. Okay, back to the wizard's chamber. I want to put in some shelves in this area above the table, and that's what we'll work on today. So these are my shelf pieces that I've cut. I'll lay in some wood texture on these and then get them all painted. While we wait for the shelves to dry, I'm going to begin to cut out the support pieces. I'll do this very similarly to, you've seen how I've done stones and bricks and things in the past. I will take this long piece that already has roughly the dimensions that I want, and I'm going to turn my Proxon heat all the way down and just carve out the shape roughly of the supports that I want, like so. And then I'll put my fence in here to the depth that I want for these and begin just slicing them off. And I have one of those. And there those are, I'll get them painted as well. Okay, I have all these pieces. Let's just start getting them glued together. And there's our long shelf right about there, like so. I'll get the rest of them glued together and throw some black wash on them. Okay, with these shelves all done, I am now going to just populate them with some little more of these kinds of things and then get them attached to the wall. Okay, I populated those shelves with all kinds of fun little trinkets and things. I threw some books on there. I made this little silver chalice out of a couple beads that I stuck together, and potions and all kinds of things on there. So there's my table and shelf area all finished, and we will continue working on it tomorrow. We return once again to the wizard's chamber build. I next want to put in a big hearth fireplace piece right here in the corner, and I think what I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to just construct some pillars here and here, and then maybe one in the back. I'm going to start off with just cutting these pillars and shaping them, and then putting in just a kind of a big slab on top. Here's what I have so far. I'm just showing you the pieces as I go. I made these 3 columns here. I cut this into quarters so I could fit it in that corner back there. Basically, I just have these 3 pieces you can see here that I shaped and then glued together to make these columns, which of course I'll finish painting up like stone. And then this piece will fit on top there. And then I want something, I'm gonna have something here that extends out of the piece. As I've said before, I kind of like paintings where you can tell something's going on beyond the edge. And so that's what I'm going to do with this element here. I'll have the upper part of this hearth in there. There'll be just the detritus of many fires laying in this area down here. Okay, I'm making progress. As you can see, I've got all my ashen things there. I have these pieces coming up here. And I think to the front of this, when it's all painted and done, I think we're going to attach this little brass dragon. I think that'll look cool in there. But I'm going to get it painted, glued together, and finished up and show you what I've done. All right, the fireplace is all finished. You can see I've got all the ash down in there and my little brass dragon embellishment. I think it looks really cool. Next in the wizard's chamber, I think our wizard might be a collector of art, and I have a couple of wall spaces here that I'd like to cover. I have these little pendant picture frame things I got from Michael's. I'm just going to print off some creepy looking pictures to put in these and stick to the wall. Here they are. I'm just going to cut those out and attach them to a little bit of cardstock next. Gluing them down to the cardstock will just make them a little more durable. I'm just going to use a little glue stick for that. Cut them out again. Now I'm going to brush on and stipple on some of this antique matte Mod Podge. This will protect it, seal it, and maybe even give it a little texture to kind of make it look like that they're paintings. I'm actually going to do more stippling than brushing. This will dry clear. The antique has a slightly yellowed tint to it, which serves for my purpose. As I said, just stippling that on, so kind of give it some texture. Wait for that to dry. Okay, I think that looks pretty cool. Here's the other one. Tack these into the frames that I'm going to use. I'm just going to use a couple spots of hot glue just to hold them on, because then I will hot glue the frames directly to the walls of the build. That'll look pretty creepy. And I have those. I'm just going to now glue them into the piece. And there we'd have some very simple framed artwork. Creepy, but cool. Yeah, some simple ways to add some little art pieces to your build. Next up in the wizard's chamber build, I think I want to just build like a little display case that maybe a staff and some other, important pieces could be displayed in. I have all my pieces cut here. I have some of this like dark blue velvet. I think that'll look nice in there, but I need to just texture, paint, and assemble all of these, and I'll show you what I have so far. And here are all the pieces glued together. I threw this little wizard staff in there and just some crystals and gems. I have this clear plastic piece from a minifigure package in a frame, and I'll just tack that down over the top to make that glass case lid like so. I have dry brushed this with some gold paint very lightly, just to give it kind of a shimmer and as if it were painted a little gold at one time and has worn off. I also have these beads, which actually come apart like this. So you have this red bead in the center with these thin metal elements surrounding it. I'm taking some of those and I've cut them apart and flattened them out. I'm going to throw these in some wash just to age them a bit and then lay them on around this piece just as some decorative metal embellishment. And there we go, all done. That little piece in the middle kind of makes, I put a little hole there so it's sort of be where the lock would be, but I'm calling the piece done there. I think it's pretty cool. I'm going to leave this modular so that one could move this around wherever they would like. It could be positioned or not used at all, but I think I like it right about there. And there we have a little display case. Next up in our wizard's build, I think our wizard needs a fancy place to sit. So I'm going to make a throne, if you will. For the back of my throne, I think I'm going to go with like a standing stone that I'll make out of the bark. If you want to see how I turn bark into stone, check out this video. Right there I have my piece of bark. I've just put the base coat on. This will be like, again, as I said, the back of the throne. This will be the backrest part, and then this will be the back side of the throne. Maybe sit somewhere like right about here. I'm going to raise it up on a bit of a dais. You know, I'll keep working at it, but there's the piece, there's the standing stone piece that I'm using for the back of the throne. Here's my little dais piece that I've made for this to sit on. I kind of cut it to mirror these stones here and the stones that are in the fireplace there. So I think it'll sit nicely right here, and I'll start building that up like so. I'm going to put in a seat, of course, and some armrests. And there are all of my little bits. I just need to get them painted and glued together, and I'll show you what I've done. And here it is. I added the little cushion, and of course it needed a skull. And I think this thing is freaking cool.
Beware of he who sits on the red stone throne, for he's cruel, and his heart is black.
All right, how about some rugs for our wizard's chamber? I got all of these things at the fabric and ribbon section at Joann Fabrics, actually. I think that the most obvious of these is this kind of ribbon here. Simply going to snip this off, and there you go. You have what I think makes a great looking little throw rug. This came in two colors. I have the purple and the blue. Don't have to do anything to those. Here's another ribbon here. And I think for this one, I'm going to kind of try to snip out this shape right in here, including these two little orange diamonds here. So I'll just kind of cut it to a shape. You're going to want to put in a bead of hot glue just to keep all this from coming apart. I'll just go back and trim off the overflow of the hot glue. And there's just another little simple area rug, throw rug. I also found this ribbon, which I think could make like, you could make a longer runner rug that could go across an area. So again, I'm going to kind of shape the end here, like so. So I have this, and I will again hot glue the edge just so it doesn't come unraveled. I think that makes a very nice looking rug. It'll look great laying here in front of laying across the front of the wizard's work table here. And one more option I have, I just saw this fabric. This was in like the offcuts, and I think these little circles that are on here already make what would be great little rugs. So I'm just going to cut out one of these circles and see what happens. And there's that. And we can just put that in wherever we like. But you can see lots of options for different ways of making some rugs for your builds. Very easy, very inexpensive, and they look great. So I don't believe our little wizard friend always sits on his throne. He probably likes to take his meals sitting down here by the fire. So I'm just going to create some little bits of furniture to throw around in this piece. This isn't going to be anything fancy, just kind of a rough table and chair, and I'm just going to use this piece of scrap and cut up all the bits. So here's my little tabletop, and I have the chair pieces. This is the seat of the chair, and I made this slightly rounded back for it. And I'm going to turn once again to my decorative toothpicks for the legs and framing for the little table and chairs. I need to get these foam pieces base coated and everything just kind of painted black, and we'll go from there. You may often notice in my videos that I have dirty hands. As you can see, I'm not too careful to not get paint on myself. So it is just one of the consequences of my art, but I don't mind. Okay, here is our little chair. I think it looks great. We'll set the little chair over here. And I made this little table, and I thought it'd be cool if one of the legs had broken off, so our wizard has just stacked up some books that table can sit on. And we can set that over here as well. And our wizard friend likes to sit by the fire and have their meals or read a book or think up nefarious plots for world domination. I am calling this piece finished. I did add some little potted plants in there just for things to address some concerns people had. People commented this table was too low. This is not a table our wizard would sit at. This is a table our wizard would stand at and work, and you can see that it is in fact the perfect height. Additionally, people were concerned that I hide the hinges for this bookcase secret passage, which I did. I just took this little piece of column that matches the columns from the fireplace, and I attached some magnets to it and some magnets there on the side, so this piece just pops right on there like so. Once you remove this, then you can easily open the bookcase and access the secret passage. Also, and I didn't show how I made this, but I did put in this little book here on a small cardstock hinge with a magnet so that you can pull it out as a sort of a lever to release the secret passage. You let it go and it pops right back there on the magnet. Just a fun little addition. And yeah, I'm going to call it done. This is on my Etsy shop now. It comes with everything you see here. Plus, I'm going to add the little wizard mini